Welcome to the Hold to Talk again. Yeah. Welcome to the Hold to Talk podcast with your host Juliet.
And Abby. Culture shock is real. Both of us live in separate countries, as we spoke about last time. So I'm in Portugal and Juliet's in the United States of America, specifically in Boston. And we are really interested to hear each other's topics when it comes to what culturally we've found different, funny, odd to us coming from England. How actually was your weekend?
So yeah, this weekend in the US was 4th of July weekend. It's my second 4th of July since I moved here. This time I chose to get away from the city and I went to Arcadia National Park, which is my first national park experience.
Have you
And it
been to a
was
national
amazing.
park in England?
No,
I was just going to say, what's the
I don't
difference?
know if they're even called national parks,
Yeah,
but
they
they
are.
are. So yeah, we went to Arcadia National Park. It was amazing. And it was just nice to celebrate the country in a little bit of a different way. It doesn't always have to be, well, it is fireworks and food and barbecue and everything, but we were just able to kind of look at the beauty of the country and get out of the city. It was really good.
Very cool. And we were talking about before how different it is to celebrate. Like, obviously, everyone's heard of the 4th of July. We were trying to compare it, weren't we, to like what we might celebrate in England that is similar?
We genuinely do not have a day where we celebrate our country, which is actually quite sad. Unless it's a jubilee, which is like people celebrate jubilee,
To do with the royals, like the Queen's or King's birthday.
but it's never really like that's celebrating somebody. Whereas like with 4th of July is all about celebrating the country and everyone can get involved with that. Whereas Jubilee is very much like
If you
for the
love the
royal
royal.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's St. George's Day. And I imagine some people probably celebrate that, but that was never something we celebrated.
I've never heard of anyone celebrating St. George's Day.
Like the streets are lined with flags or anything like that. It's just not something that in England
No.
I've seen or am aware of. Maybe we're
And I think
wrong.
that takes us on to the first culture shock, really, which
Mm.
is how patriotic the US is versus where I'm from, because we don't even fly our flags on our houses. We don't do that. Whereas here it's like everybody's house.
Is that something you'd like to do? Like, do you see that as a positive thing?
I see it as a positive thing here, yeah. When I own my own home, I would have a US flag. I might even put both up just because we're
Oh,
UK
can you
and
do
US,
that?
but yeah.
Are you
People have
there?
all different flags. They have like people have their college flags up, people have
Mm.
like their state flags up. It's really nice. Like I like it. Sometimes people think it's a bit overdone, but I think why not? Why shouldn't you like celebrate a country? I feel like we could use a bit more of that in the UK.
Have you ever watched The Big Bang Theory?
No,
One of the
it's
characters
not a
there,
me thing.
Sheldon.
You know that I'm very particular about what I
I
want.
know. But it just reminds me when you talk about this topic that someone, Sheldon on Big Bang Theory, has fun with flags. I doubt that there's flags for everything, which, yeah, again, I was unaware of. They have Portugal Day over here, actually.
They
And
do.
yeah, it's a national holiday that people celebrate in not obviously in the same vast extreme that the 4th of July, because no one else even knows about it, whereas like at least other people understand that the 4th of July is important. But yeah, Portugal Day is a day. So
Today.
it's a day. I don't know what we do for it. I don't know what they do for it, but I know that it's a day. All I know is my kids are off school on that day. So
And
that's a
you're
fun day.
screwed on that
That's a hard
day.
day for me when it comes to having to work and deal with the children. But that's a whole other topic.
Yes.
4th of July, and what other celebrations do they do in the US that culturally have shocked you?
Yeah, I think in general they go bigger, harder for all of the celebrations that we do in the US in the UK. So Halloween is huge. Obviously Christmas, Easter is like a whole nother beast here. Like I was shocked what they do for Easter. They don't just give their child an Easter egg, like they make baskets for their children and it's like gifts, it's toys, it's chocolate, it's jelly beans, it's
What?
bunnies, it's honestly, it's incredible like what they put together. People decorate their houses for Easter. So
Mm.
a lot of people have like things like Jesus has risen outside their houses and the cross and stuff. They just go crazy for it. But they also like, especially in Boston, St. Patrick's Day is a huge thing here.
But actually, England's got way more big about Halloween. Like, since we were young, it used to be you could trick or treat, and now people make such a big deal about decorating their houses and making a bit more of a fuss. I think we kind of we kind of copy what they do in the US when it comes to that celebrations. But also Easter, like when we were younger, I don't remember mum and dad ever letting us like organize Easter egg hunts and stuff. That's all stuff I do for my kids now and my kids' friends. Don't get me wrong, I do not give my kids gifts at Easter. I don't know how many times are my children going to have bundles of gifts? They get way too much chocolate, but I don't gift them.
Like, you know, it is a little, some people just think it is overkill because they're just like, how many times are you going to give, like, shower your kids with gifts and stuff? But I think it depends on your mindset. Like for me, I actually think it's really lovely. Like, life is too short. We're a long time dead. Why wouldn't you celebrate things?
What
No,
a
but it's
saying.
true. I just think it's nice to get the kids excited for something. The world is really cruel.
No, it's true. And I love Easter. I mean, here in Portugal, it's a Catholic country. So it's very much around religion. It's not so much about Easter egg hunts and things like that. Like in England, there was like scheduled ones that the councils would schedule and things like that you could meet. That doesn't really happen here. But I find Portugal, compared to England and certainly the US, is that everything's really slow. Like the expats are bringing those traditions over as opposed to already being here. So it's more about religion, going to church. And you see a lot of people dressing up like as if they're going to weddings and going to the church and celebrating Easter, which is quite nice.
I forgot about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is my favorite. It's bigger, my favorite holiday personally, because it's non-religious holiday. It's not about how much money you've got, what gifts you give. It's just about spending time with your family and friends and enjoying food and time together and being thankful for life. It is just such a nice celebration. It's nicer than Christmas because you don't have the pressure. Everyone's like even killed. They have all their traditions with what they make, whether you're in the South and
at Thanksgiving. Is that a gift
no
giving?
gifts. No
No,
gifts.
it's not a
That's what's so
Christmas.
good about it. It's all about food. It's basically all about food. In each different region of the country, they make staple dishes. So like in the South, they have something completely different, like collard greens. I'm not even saying it right. They do sweet potato with marshmallow. It's like amazing.
We have friends here that are from the US. I think she's from Minnesota and he's from Colorado. And they invited us to their Thanksgiving celebration. And they did, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called a turducken. So it's a turkey with a duck in it with a chicken in it.
No, I've not heard of that.
Put that in the oven and it's
That's brilliant.
and then they had the sweet potato and the marshmallow, which I was really like, is that going to be disgusting and way too sweet? It was delicious. I was like, this is amazing. What the hell? I would never have put a marshmallow in a sweet potato dish. Absolutely. It was lovely.
Their holidays are good for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, here we have, like, they celebrate a lot of Catholic holidays. The other holiday that's quite fun over here is Carnival, which is huge in Brazil and South America, and it's big here too. And it's really fun. So the kids dress up and go to school dressed up in, I mean, sometimes the schools will have a theme, but sometimes they kind of let it up to the kids. But the adults dress up too. And then they have in the streets like a massive parade. People have made their own. So you might find like the local dance group have made their own float. And it kind of comes out. It's all about music and colour. And I'm not going to lie, I probably should Google exactly why that is a thing. I actually am going to do that in a minute. What else? What other culture shocks have you found?
Maybe we could talk about like mindset culture differences. I feel like that's a really it's a really interesting one to talk about because even Portugal's mindset to the UK is different too. So people's mindset, what I've found in the US versus the UK is whether it's work, whether it's in life, like no matter what, like, I just feel like they are so much more optimistic than pessimistic. What more can they get? Like, I don't know if it's where I live. Obviously living in Boston. I don't know what it is, but it's something in the water, genuinely, where like you feel like you can achieve anything and like no one's laughing at you, no one's trying to bring you down. If I turned up at work tomorrow and said I'm starting my own business, if I came in and said I've started my own business on the side, they would be like, wow, amazing, I wish you luck, like they can't do enough for you, what do you need help with, do you need any contacts, can I put, whereas in the UK I can only imagine, and we see it with our dad who's a business owner, like, people want to bring you down, they don't want to push you forward, they don't want to see someone win in the area. Here I feel like people want to see each other win and bring each other up to make more, earn more and do more. And I feel like just in general the luxuries that you get in the UK are just necessities in the US.
Wow, big
Yeah.
bold. So, but do you think that some of that could be because you're able to start again because you moved from the UK to the US and no one knows you, so you have nothing to lose. Like you don't feel like you necessarily have anything to lose by starting a TikTok, and versus in England because people knew you and I guess you had a reputation of some sort and you had, you'd grown up there, that maybe it's to do with that, or do you think it's genuinely because that's their mindset versus like you moving?
It's genuine, the mindset. I genuinely believe that. I see it with even down to like when I go into a store and I look at the children's books that they're selling. It's all about growth, personal growth, self-awareness, believing in yourself. You're beautiful, love each other. There's a lot of these books. Like there's a beautiful book. It's called Big, and it's really like big here in the US. Like they love it, and it's all about this big thinking mindset. Like nothing is too big for you to achieve. And they do, like, obviously American dream is part of it. And I feel like, I don't know, there will be people that don't agree, some Americans that don't agree, or they feel like they are getting stunted and stuff like that. But I feel like the grass is always greener, right? And I
Yeah.
have lived in both, and I feel like I can achieve more here than I could have ever achieved. I have career goals now. I have wishes for myself. In the UK, I just felt stunted. And even though people know who you are, and me starting a TikTok, for example, maybe would be really out of my comfort zone if I was back home, I do feel like even when I started it here, people that knew me here were encouraging. They weren't embarrassed, or like, I feel like I can only imagine that there's people in the UK that knew me from school that think, how embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. And I feel like in the US, they're not embarrassed, but they're like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that, or I'm going to do that. And so many people want to do it too. I don't know. I feel like there is like this really amazing like mindset that I've noticed.
I mean, compared to Portugal, Portugal has a totally different mindset to England and the US. It's about slow living. So it's kind of getting off the, I mean, how would you say it? Like the hamster wheel of trying to make more money and trying to buy the next best bag. Most people that I know don't wear makeup in the day. We would just walk around in flip-flops. To go out for dinner, you don't really dress up. It's very rare. I mean, you might go to the odd, there's obviously Michelin star restaurants and things like that. And I live in the Algarve. Lisbon and Porto are different. They're big cities, and it's a completely different mindset and culture shock. And it's one of the reasons we chose to come, because we wanted to slow ourselves down a little bit. I wanted my kids to remain children for longer, which I definitely think is happening here. And it means that they're not so much, on technology all the time begging me for telephones, because they're outside a lot more and they're doing a lot more in nature. And, they come home from school and they'll jump in the pool. We might go to the beach, or we spend Fridays after school at the beach with some friends and a pizza. And it's just a completely different way of life. And I do wonder as well if that would be different if we lived more coastal. Where we came from in England was just outside of London, whether that would be different. But I think it probably would be, purely because of the weather. So you don't have that nice weather, most of the year. So you can't live like that.
I think as well, like I can only relate it to like people that live in Miami, for example, or like live in Fort Lauderdale, somewhere like that where they've got the sunshine. They do have that, what you're saying, like they take their kids to have pizza on the beach and stuff like that. But the only thing I would say is different is they're still in the rat race, because you can't live here and not have money. You can,
Yeah.
but it's really hard to
Yeah.
not be trying to better yourself, because the cost of living is just so high.
But I think what I didn't realize, because as much as that, the slow living lifestyle is something we were really attracted to, there is a negative side to it. And the negative, truthfully, there is the negative side, which we weren't really thinking about, was that everything's slow.
I was gonna say that
Like,
is so hard to.
everything's slow. We are trying to get, for example, we're trying to get our electricity upgraded. We're now on month 8. They approved it in December. They approved it 8 months ago, and we're still on month 8 because they just haven't got round to it, and they needed the approval, and everything's just a little bit more technophobe than in England, and definitely the US. The slow living has its downsides because nothing gets done when you want it to get done. And as expats, we all sort of say, well, it's Portugal. You kind of know that if you're building a house or you're trying to do something in your garden or whatever. It's whatever they quote, don't expect it to be done by that day. I'm a deadline person. I'm on time. I kid you not, we go to parties and the party will start at 12 o'clock, kids party or adult party, whatever. People are turning up at 3. I'm like, 3 hours late. I'm going home soon. And
It's
they're just rocking up. And they don't even think it's rude. I'm like, but my invitation said 12.
what are you doing?
Like,
That is hilarious.
when is this going to end if you've turned up 3 hours late? Like, what am I supposed to do? I didn't get enough food. So it is like a bizarre culture thing.
It is very, very, especially like to the US. Because when I say to Abby, like, one of my favorite things here that I moved here, I can just get my groceries delivered same day, like in the next couple hours. If I wanted my groceries delivered to me, they would be here by 3 o'clock if I wanted them to. Whereas Abby on Amazon is hilarious because it's like a 3-week wait time to get any toys for her kids. So it's
I
hilarious.
agree. So well organized and planned. Like my twins just had a birthday. I ordered their presents a month in advance. Whereas when I was in England, I'd probably do it like C-class mum here, by the way, like 2 days before, knowing it will turn up next day delivery. I mean, even in the US when we came to see it in Boston, it was same day delivery. They arrived the same goddamn day. How do they pack and send it? I'm so confused. Where was it? Where was it waiting?
I know I can get things like if I have run out of, I don't know, like cotton pads to my face, I can get them at 4 a.m. that day. Like,
what kind of living is this? I'm so confused. You want an Uber Eats, for example. Where we live, we just started to get Uber Eats over here, and it's ages. By the time it gets there, you don't want to eat it. It's grim.
change expectation. I'm like, I get annoyed if my Uber Eats isn't here in 15 minutes.
Yeah, no.
Ollie, we're getting a refund on the Uber Eats, Ollie, because they're taking the piss out of here.
And do you get as well? We get like, I'll order an Uber and like 2 seconds before it arrives to cancel it. Yeah, just cancel it. And you're like, well, if I did that to you, I'd have to pay for the set. But no, they just cancel it 2 minutes before and just drive off. It's just like, there's just no sense of, I mean, that leads me on to a whole other thing. There's no sense of service. Service is not a thing here. If you go to top restaurants, like there's beautiful restaurants, you'll get great service. And if you speak to the Portuguese, they're really friendly, but you have to initiate the conversation first. And it's 50-50 because some of them really aren't friendly unless you're speaking to them in Portuguese. And I understand their frustration, I do, because a lot of people living here don't even try and learn the language. They find it really frustrating. When I came to you and we went to like even the coffee shop, even a nice coffee shop, you just go in, you're spending about, I mean, in the US, you spend about $200 on a cup of coffee. Whereas like, I kid you not, it costs €3 for a cup of coffee here, and that's a good cup. So we go in like, and they're friendly. They're like, hi, how are you? They couldn't be chattier. They just, no, not here. You're lucky if they look at you. Genuinely lucky if they look up. They'll order you the coffee the whole time, won't even look you in the eye. It's a different level, to be honest.
I feel like Americans really wouldn't like that because Americans are really conversational and they really like eye contact. I don't know how they even move there and feel okay with that.
Yeah, but I think it's in particular, it's the Algarve. I think that because I've been to Lisbon and they're so friendly and they're so nice, and same in Porto. I loved it in Porto. So it is different. But if you go to any of like the governmental buildings and stuff, those are the ones that are just like, you're so lucky if you get someone that helps you, to be honest, and you could be there for ages. And so, do you speak any English? No. And they just stare at you and you're like, wonderful. So then you Google Translate and then they're annoyed at you because you're attempting to get the answer to what you went in there for. I have to say that there's been a few really, really friendly ones. And when they're friendly, they're super, super helpful. But you aren't guaranteed it like you are in the US. And I think that's maybe the difference.
An interesting one because service here, of course, you get superior service. There is no doubt about that. And that's against any other country I've ever visited, apart from Bali, which was magnificent. But in the US, like I genuinely, incomparable, the level that you get. And of course, with that, there's this tipping culture that's fueling that where they are doing it for the tips. Part of me thinks that like, I actually don't mind it because it means that I can get in, get out faster. My food is always correct. They take the time to make sure the order's right. They come back, and if it's not tasting good, they'll sort you out. And I don't know, they're so like fueled by the tip. A couple of things that I cannot stand when it comes to the tipping culture is that one, it's got out of control. The amount, so it's 20% minimum, which is a lot of money.
Well, expensive because it's not cheap to eat out anyway, is it?
It's extortion, especially where I live in Boston.
Yeah.
All my Bostonians will know that it's very, very expensive. You've got that, and then you get 20% on top. Then you go in to get a coffee, for example, and they turn the thing round and try and get you to do 20%. I'd never do it. I said no. Unless it's like a really nice, like local coffee shop, I will do it then when they're lovely. You know, you can
But may
really tell.
I add, you didn't tell me that. So when I arrived, you were like, tipping is a thing. I went and got myself a coffee, walked in, and came out at 25% tip. So she was well happy with me. I walked out, and then when I got back, you were like, why was it so expensive? And I was like, so tipped her, Juliet. You told me to tip her.
No, not in like things like Starbucks, Blue Bottles. I wouldn't tip in there, but like the local ones, I might do like 15 to 18%, give them something.
The privately owned ones.
But I feel like the ones that like the tips, the tipping stuff that really like was a culture shock to me, which I didn't realize, was this tipping on things like your nails, your hair, your hair appointments, or any beauty related appointments apart from like aesthetics, like, you know, Botox and injectables. But that you don't have to tip on those medical stuff, but you have to tip on facials.
What's the unwritten law?
Well, that's the funny thing that you asked that, because it's not written anywhere. No one tells you that, but you need to kind of live here to know it. And it was something that I had to learn, because I went to my first hair appointment, got my hair dyed. It was like $450 to dye it blonde. Then I got to the till, and they were like, yes, $450. And then they were like, would you like, I can't remember what her name was, but her Venmo so that you can tip her. Sure. Didn't know what Venmo was at the time. Like, it's like it's like PayPal almost, but it's for like, you can literally scan a barcode and you can give people tips.
It's like MBWay here. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that. And so a lot of people, like, you get your hair and your nails done, then you Venmo them the tip
And that's like to their personal account.
to their personal like account. It goes directly to them. So like, I didn't know. So that obviously then I was like, shit, how much do I even do? So I had to research that. And obviously I had TikTok at the time. So I asked them what was going on with this. And then it just came about that like, that is the done thing. You have to do 20% tips on these things.
That's in every state, or just is that Boston in it?
I'm pretty sure it's every state. I don't know if it's a different percentage depending on what state you are, but definitely I've not been told that there's states that don't do it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty brutal, to be
It
honest.
just adds an extra 20% to like costs of living, doesn't it? Because everything needs to be tipped, which is wild.
It's really expensive.
In the UK, you tip, but you only tip for good service. So it's like, but I know that in the UK, it's a higher salary. So if you find that the service necessarily isn't as good because they're not working for their tips, they're working for their hourly wage. The tips are the extras. Like, especially when I used to work in a bar, I would try for my tips, but I was getting paid. It wasn't great, but at the time when I was young, it was fine. In Portugal, tip, if again, it's more like about service, and 10%, I think, is what we would normally give, is a 10% tip. And you've got to remember as well, I mean, it's already cheaper for our dinners, and then we're giving, a 10% tip. And a lot of the places here, which again was a bit of a culture shock, a lot of places only take cash. They don't take card. So then you have to make sure you have cash out to pay, which is wild. But it's annoying because when we first arrived here, we only had card. Like, you'd pay for everything on your phone. It's getting better, to be fair, but when we first arrived, it was rare. I mean, unless you're in a supermarket, you can pay with card.
In the UK, I don't know if everyone knows this, but in the UK, like, you tap for everything. You tap your phone for everything. I used to not take my card out at all.
Yeah.
I used to only carry my phone. In the US, you have to take your physical card everywhere as well.
Why?
You have to, for restaurants, they don't let you tap. You have to give your physical card, and they take the card away, and they do all that business where they swipe
See,
it.
that's the thing as well. In the UK and here, your card should never be out of your sight.
It's illegal.
It's illegal now. But in the US, they can still take your card away.
They take your card away, they swipe at you, they bring you back the other receipt, and then you do, your tip stuff.
And do you still sign? I remember in Florida, we used to have to sign. That's still signatures. Isn't that quite old school for a place that's really techie?
It's very old school. They haven't updated that element of it at all.
At least even here, we tap. If you're going to take a card, they let you tap.
No, they don't. And like, you don't really carry cash, but I get annoyed if I can't use my Amex in places, because Amex is so readily, like, you can use Amex everywhere in the US. So your points.
No, you cannot here. I mean, you'll be lucky. Maybe at the Marriott hotels, and the big chain hotels, you can use Amex. I got an Amex specifically for points because I thought, brilliant, I could pay the school fees on it. I could pay, my rent at the time. No, couldn't do anything. It was a complete waste of my time getting the Amex. Here, which was annoying. The next thing is bureaucracy, which we kind of touched on before. Like, I think one of the things that's quite frustrating is as an expat, you'll always get overcharged when they quote you for things, which I think is kind of expected, but it's I think so, because they always assume because you're an expert, you have lots of money, because what we're earning versus say what the Portuguese are earning is significantly higher. Their minimum wage here is like €4 an hour. And obviously you've got loads of expats coming over from the US, from Canada, the UK. It's slowing down because we left Europe and it's more difficult to come over here now with visas. Because of that, you find, like, let's say you're going to have something quoted on your house, you'll definitely find that they will inflate their prices and not have to give you any sort of breakdown as to why. And then the other thing that we found was I got caught speeding, and in the UK you have, I think it's like a month or 2 months or something to get that through, and they have to have a picture of you doing it. Here they can give it up to, I think it's like 2 years, and they don't have to have any evidence that it was you.
It's like crooked.
I know. I got one and I was like, well, I think I'm going to contest this because there's not even a picture on it. It's just like, this is your number plate. And it was my car at the time. It 100% was me. But here they were like, if you do that, you won't be able to drive. There'll be a whole thing, like a whole hoo-ha. So I just ended up having to pay it and taking that one on the chin. But even things like that, you don't think about what the process is on those things. And those things are quite important things because the majority of us are like driving around.
Do you know what's wild here? So Ollie got a speeding ticket on like a specific road that was like, you've overdone it. And it was like I think it was like a $50 fine. And there's no point system. So you can speed as many times as you want. Your license will never get taken away.
Yeah, so in the UK, you get points and you're allowed up to 12 points and then your license gets revoked. But the other thing that you can do in the UK now is do a driving course, which I've done.
Yeah.
And you're only supposed to offer one. Yeah, it's awful. I mean, you just sit there and, say yes, yes, yes. And then you don't get the points. And I would like to say I've never sped again. I learnt my lesson.
We won't admit it. Here, this is something that was crazy. That was again a bit of a how do you say that word? Bureaucratic.
Yeah, that sounds right. Bureaucracy.
So when we first arrived, I went out with new friends that I'd made, and it was so embarrassing because we went to a bar and I came and I had I just had my passport with me. And so I went to show my passport as like a form of ID, and they were like, no, you have to have a Massachusetts ID. And I was like, I've just moved here. I don't have a Massachusetts ID. I don't know what you're talking about. What is that? And they're like, you need a state ID. We don't recognize that as an ID. And I was like, it literally says, yeah. I said, it literally says, it was so embarrassing that everyone had to leave the bar because I couldn't get in.
Oh, you and your new friends. Are you friends with any of them anymore?
Yeah, but next day, I had to go and get a Massachusetts ID. Had to get a Massachusetts ID, and it was my biggest flex. I love it. I love my Massachusetts ID.
How would I get in? I don't have one of those.
I don't know if he was being a particularly arsey or it's a Boston thing. I don't know, but they were so
including everybody else, unless you're from the US, Massachusetts in particular. We need to know names. British person, because I don't have a state ID.
Well, yeah, because I think he was like, why have you got this? And I said, oh, I live here. And then immediately as I said, I live here, I think he discriminated. He was like, why are you using this then? You need a mass ID. So that was fun. Now I've got my mass ID and I love it. It's like, I can fly with it. I don't need my passport.
I don't even need the passport anymore. I needed to get my residency card. I ended up having to hire a lawyer to come in and help me do it because they wouldn't really speak to me and they wouldn't help me. And it's complicated. And at the time, I couldn't speak any Portuguese. Not that my Portuguese is any better now, but I needed to get a lawyer who was Portuguese to help. But it's rare that you kind of hear, it's quite rare, it's only on those moments where you're sort of setting up your life or setting up your tax code or setting those things up that you would actually need help, I guess, because, you notice the bureaucracy in those things. So you wanted to talk about
healthcare. This is going to be a divisive one, but I feel like it's my perspective. You've got to remember before we speak about these things, this is just our opinion, our perspective, like what we've thought about certain things. It doesn't mean it's fact. It doesn't mean
experienced.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's your lived experience. Everyone's got their own lived experience. This is mine.
change our minds.
Basically, before I moved here, of course, like one of the main concerns, and everyone was telling me, is the loss of my universal healthcare, the loss of the NHS. You know, like get ready for the medical bills, get ready for, like it's going to be so bad. How are you going to afford it? I've heard horror stories of people been made bankrupt, and that's true. Some people have actually had that happen. So I'm not taking that away from your experience. But what I will say to all that scaremongering stuff, because there's a lot of it that goes on, is actually if you have, in my experience, a good job that provides you a good healthcare plan, I have found the healthcare to be faultless. It is exceptional healthcare. It is better than my UK
But that
healthcare.
is because it's private, isn't it?
Yes, but you will hear that there will be people in the US. I'm sure there's so many people like shaking their head to this that are having terrible experiences with their healthcare and they're paying for it. So I completely understand that is awful. But I don't know if it's because I live in Massachusetts is the best state for healthcare, number one in
Yeah.
healthcare in the US.
And you have a really good plan. I mean, your plan's really extensive, your healthcare plan that you
I have a
have.
great healthcare plan and I really don't begrudge paying my monthly fee for it because when I want to get seen, I get seen like that day if I want to. Like
And
that's
how much
unheard
is
of
your
in the UK.
monthly? How much is it monthly for you?
It depends how much your work subsidize it for you. Is
So your work subsidized.
Yeah, so you're it's a copay essentially.
Ah,
It's a whole other thing, but like it basically your work can put a certain amount towards it and it will make your payment for it less if they
yeah,
pay more towards it.
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like if you get a good healthcare plan with your work, you will find it's great healthcare, in my opinion.
Is that common for like them to put the healthcare in the package for the jobs then?
Yes. I think it's like probably I would say it's the number one thing that Americans will look for in a new job is like what is your healthcare plan? It's really important. It's like it's something I would never have looked at in a previous
No,
like
like in
in my
England.
previous life. You
Yeah.
don't care. You don't care because you've got your NHS, but here it's like, what's the healthcare package? How much is it a month for my family? Like, what would the copay be? Is it in network, out of network? There's so many elements. It's so confusing. I'm still confused about it now. It's a very confusing system. Not only do you get like the healthcare, you get dental. They
Yeah.
see that as healthcare. Vision, they see that as healthcare. Mental health, chiropractor, like these things, like in the UK you pay out of pocket for as like it's like a business. Like a dentist is a business, it's not a healthcare. Like I think I pay $20 copay to go and get a full to help like teeth cleaning,
I
x-rays,
mean,
teeth
you can add dental and you can add those things to your healthcare plan in the UK, but it's like an extra thing
on the
because
private, not on the
on
NHS
the
you
private,
can't.
not on the NHS. NHS is free for children up until 12 or 13, I think it might be. And then, yeah, as an adult, you have to pay for your own dental. But yeah, obviously, there's private healthcare in the UK, and you can.
Must be why Americans' teeth are so good, honestly, because they look after their teeth. I get like monthly reminders for my teeth, and it's teeth is a choice in the UK. Genuinely, teeth is a choice. You can choose whether you want to go to the hygienist. You can choose whether you want to get a dental checkup. Like you go and get your pap smear done. You go and get your
Yeah,
mental health checked.
yeah,
Like you pay, but I personally prefer.
yeah. And I think over there, it's kind of a non-starter, isn't it? Is your health because you'll never regret paying for your health when things go wrong. All you have is your health at the end of the day. Here in Portugal, we also have a national health system. It's not as good in the Algarve as it is in the north of Portugal. They struggle to get doctors down here. I've had different experiences actually. I have an autoimmune disease. I have autoimmune hepatitis. So I was quite nervous coming over and thinking, how is that going to transfer? Because I had a consultant in the UK on the NHS eventually. And I never saw that consultant, not once. I had the odd phone call with them. Their checkup. I have to have my bloods done at the time it was 3 to 4 months. And then I should be seeing my consultant and they talk me through the bloods because I'm on steroids and immune suppressants. As soon as I came over here, I went and saw the National Health GP and I signed it up with the kids. I was shocked at how good their system was compared to the NHS over there. So you're supposed to get a family doctor here. We haven't had a family doctor since we've moved here and we're in year 4. But the GPs have been really good. And every year they check the children. The GP checks your kids' teeth as well. We see a dentist, but they also just do a quick checkup as well. And what they're checking is any differences from year on year, which makes sense because if you only see a kid once, how are you going to know if that person has had any changes? They put me straight forward to see a consultant at the hospital for my autoimmune disease, and she's amazing. She does tests for me for everything. I've had bone marrow bone tests because of the medication I'm on can make my bones thin. I've had ultrasounds. I've had a test because they thought that I could have a different autoimmune disease. In the UK, it was like I couldn't even see. If I walked past him on the street, I wouldn't know who my consultant was. They really failed because it's something, especially with the autoimmune disease that I have, like my medication can stop working from one day to the next and then they need to change my meds again. And she's never even seen me before. However, I also have HPV, which in the UK, when you have that, you have to every year just get a smear test where they do a little scrape. And I brought that over here as well. They put me straight through, and it was, I went in to this gynecologist. She was horrific. She put me in stirrups. She had a camera up me with the screen in front of my face. So I've never looked at myself like that before. It was just,
That's horrific.
it was just, and it was so painful. It was just the most, and she wouldn't speak English to me. And I was kind of speaking to her a little bit in Portuguese, Google Translated, trying to be like, ouch, that hurts. But she kept saying, don't know why you're here. Don't know why you're here. And I was like, well, because I've been tested positive for HPV and you need to check if it changes. She just kept shouting at me. So I go back to the UK and do it over there because I just don't want to see her again. However, you can do that privately. And I've been told by everybody when it comes to gynecologists in the Algarve, do not go and see them on the National Health. Get a private one. It's worth every penny.
I think that's, I guess, another thing that's good about this healthcare is you choose your doctor. You can do research and you can choose the one for you. And there's loads of people that have their same doctor since they were like babies and they still see the same doctor. So I think that's so nice personally, but I will say that what is absolutely terrifying about this, which is I'm going to give you the other side of it, is if you don't have a job, you don't have healthcare. If I lose my job, healthcare's gone. I have no healthcare. If something happened to me the day after I lose my job, I am screwed. Even to the point where to get an ambulance, so if I have a medical emergency that I get run over, I have to pay an ambulance fee for an ambulance to come out and get me.
Otherwise they'll just leave you.
So I had an incident where I was in a restaurant with friends and a lady passed out on the stairs and knocked her head and it was bleeding and she was unconscious. So people started calling the ambulance. When she came around, she was scream crying, like begging people not to call an ambulance because she would end up with a fee for calling out an ambulance because she needed an ambulance. It's like that bit is not good. That bit is really horrific. Like if you need help, you should be able to get free emergency care.
Yes. Yeah, for an emergency situation. That's crazy. I personally got rejected from 3 different insurance companies because apparently in Portugal, I don't even know if it's legal. I'd love for someone to tell me if this was even legal because I argued it. They can turn you down because you have an autoimmune disease. So they said, we won't insure you. Now in England, you can be insured, but they just won't insure my autoimmune disease because it's been diagnosed with medication, but they'll insure everything else. They just outrightly refused to have me and then I found one that said we will, but we have to have your whole family. Now we were going to move it over and I wonder if it's the same in the US, but we're not doing it at the moment because my other half is having some tests done for something and there's like a waiting period. You have to be with them for 3 months before you can even claim anything or 3 months. So we can't move over. So I'm not insured, which isn't the end of the world because we're here in Portugal and there is a public system. How can you refuse someone private health when they're willing to pay because they have a condition that they can't help? It's
disgusting, actually. It's awful.
Isn't it bad?
Yeah, I don't think that would happen here just because that your only choice is to pay for private medical, otherwise you don't have medical care. So there's no way they could do that. But I will say that I'm definitely not all knowing of the way that it works, but my personal plan is you have to pay up to your deductible to then start getting your general. So like say you have a deductible of $1,000, you pay the first $1,000. I think it's called a deductible. You have to pay up to your first $1,000 and then after that you're covered.
So that if you pay that $1,000, let's say the next day, you're covered. It doesn't matter. You can then claim your dentist and
yeah, and you might have a small copay on things like if you see your PCP, you might pay $20 every time you see your PCP.
What's
a prescription? That's the same as a GP, primary care provider.
Okay.
And then you might, but like, for example, I had a treatment done, but I needed to reach my deductible. So I had to pay $1,000. And then after that, now every time I get that same treatment, it's covered.
And is that deductible yearly?
I think it's a yearly deductible.
Yeah, it's not cheap, is it?
It's not cheap. It's not cheap. but the level of it so far
Has
so
been
good.
good.
And also like it's not just the level of it, it's also like their bedside manner. The nurses are just so
Mm,
lovely. They're so
yeah.
kind and they give you the time. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've personally had like a really lovely experience.
Here's a horror story. So they call you in to see the nurses, and it's just my blood. So I should go and get my bloods done and leave. They don't. They are seeing patient after patient after patient. They're not cleaning their hands. They're not using antibacterial stuff, and they won't put on gloves. So the first time I had it done, I was like too nervous to say anything because they can come across a bit like, "Who do you think you are?" There's even signs in the corridor to say you must use gloves. And so the next time I said to her, sorry, can you use gloves before you do my bloods? And she was like, no, it's fine. I was like, no, I want you to use gloves.
Do I think that's bad? I think
Bad, isn't it?
that is actually like,
So I told my consultant, like the next time I saw her, I was like, just so you know, they're not wearing gloves. She went, oh no, they should. She called in like a head nurse, and the head nurse was like, well, they don't actually have to. The risk is more on them because when they put it in, if it cuts them, then that's the risk on them. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's a risk on me too because if you don't wash your hands in between or antibac your hands, you have touched all these people, then you're going to put the germy stuff on me.
I just think healthcare wise, like you have to be extremely careful, especially with like we've just had COVID. Like, do
We're
people
not
not
in a
learn?
third world country. Why am I asking you to wear gloves?
Well, that is like I was gonna say is that is like low key third world. That's what it's given.
Yeah.
That's not
So,
good. That's terrible.
another cultural difference that I noticed is the school systems here versus the UK, but specifically the nurseries. When my kids went to nursery in the UK, a adult wasn't allowed on their own with a child. So there had to be two people all the time. You can't hug the children, you can't kiss the children, you can't get too close to the children. It's like a thing because they're so cautious now, I think, because of horrific stories and horrific things that have happened. Totally understand why. Then moving over here, I put my children into nursery, and by day 2, they're hugging them, kissing them on the top of their heads. I felt a bit uncomfortable because the teacher was like, kiss me, give me a kiss goodbye, give me a kiss goodbye to one of my twins. And my twin was saying no. And then she kept going. And I was like, no, he doesn't want to. Like, it's okay if he wants to. If he doesn't, I felt so bad. She was so shocked and upset because I was like, no. If he says no, it's
It
no.
means no. No means
Yeah.
no.
No means no in this. In all instances, no means no. But especially when, a 4-year-old's trying to say no. But it was a really weird one because they came from a system where you couldn't even be left on your own with an adult, let alone having an adult hug you. And a lot had to learn to like it because instantly I was like, I just felt rigid about it. I just felt like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm instantly thinking negative things about it. But you shouldn't really, because it's nice that someone's showing affection for your children, that they're being brought up in a world in their world where people are affectionate and do give cuddles and aren't stiff when it comes to touch. Obviously, there has to be a line, but it was different and it wasn't something I hadn't expected. And even up to my son's age, he's just going into year 5. So he was in year 4. His teacher's giving him a hug and kissing him on the top of the head at the end of the school year. Like, you could not get that in the UK. It's just not heard of. It's not done.
Interesting to see. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I don't have kids in the US. I'd be really interested to see because Americans are so friendly and sweet, and
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if they would be okay with that, or if they do that in their schools. I would be quite interested to know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the same state to state or if it's completely different in different states. Well, yeah, like, I think in like New York.
I can't actually speak on the school things. I can't do that. All I know is that they do have like drills, the shooting drills, which is something that would be
Yeah.
so different to the
Yeah.
UK. And obviously, I'm sure everybody knows, Americans and non-Americans, that that is not a thing in any other country. So that's
Oh,
like,
but some schools in the UK are having knife.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a few that you have to walk through like a metal detector thing to see if you've got a knife on you because there's been knife problems obviously in the UK. It's not something that's here in Portugal.
But that makes sense. That does make sense to do that now. It's got to that point, unfortunately.
Yeah, how scary.
But the one thing that I was going to pick up on what you said, which was like how with the kissing of the children and all that, like how you just thought, well, I'm either going to repel it or I'm going to I'm going to embrace that culture, because that is a total culture shift and difference. And you embraced it. And what happened when you embrace it was, actually, I quite like that my kids are cared for when they fall over, and they're not treated like, they're loved when I'm not there to love them.
Yeah.
And that's quite sweet when they're young, especially. And I feel like there's so many instances that I have when I'm here where I feel like I could either repel this culture or I could really embrace it. Sometimes, like, I think, oh, I don't know, I feel a bit uncomfortable with this. And sometimes I just think, you know what, I live here, so I'm going to embrace it. And when you do lean into it, it feels good. It's nice to embrace cultures that isn't your normal way.
With the drills for the guns and things like that, or the metal detectors in the eco for the night, that scares the absolute bejeebers out of me, because it's such an, yes, it's just such a huge culture shock. It's so different to anything we've ever been brought up with. So, like I said at the beginning, like, I wanted my kids to stay kids for longer. I don't want them to even have to think that someone could be potentially hurt them like that, or potentially murder them in school, or have any kind of, I just want them to go in, have fun with their friends, learn whatever they want, and leave. And that's how I sort of feel about it, because you're an adult for way too long. So I'm quite happy with my kids remaining kids. And that definitely is something that takes some real considering when you choose where to live, because you want to make sure that when you've got kids involved, you're creating an environment around them that you are comfortable with and want them to embrace themselves.
I think, basically, I don't think there is a single, and I'm sure every American will agree with me, I don't think any American parent likes shooting drills. I don't think any American parent wants to send their child to school knowing that that may happen for them. I will speak on behalf of that, because I genuinely think that they
Who would?
don't want that. Who would want that?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, that is a reality. It's not always happening. So I feel like there's a lot of, again, scaremongering, and that's like scenarios where, like, people think that's happening all the time and everywhere, and it's scary, and it is scary, and does happen, and it shouldn't happen. It should never ever happen. It should never be okay. We should never normalize it. It's disgusting. It's awful. It should never be a thing. And, like, I'm not at a position where I'm having kids yet. And I'm also, if I did have kids, they wouldn't go to school for another 5 years on top of that. So I have time to think about whether I'm okay with that or not. Because like you said, Americans have grown up with that. They probably did shooting drills themselves when they were in school. We've never done that. That's just so foreign. Like, that thought is so foreign to me. How and what do you do, and how do they respond, and are the kids okay?
Fire drill. I mean, we used to do fire drills in England, and they do fire drills here in Portugal, obviously. Like, where do you go if there's a fire? Those things, you're just numb, aren't you? They're not realistic. I never assumed there would actually be a fire. I was just doing a fire drill. I don't even know if I thought, you're just going through the motions. And maybe that is exactly what it is in those. But I think the scary thing, certainly from outside of England, and again, this could be all the scaremongering things, is how often it happens, and how actually it's not just going through the motions. It's less likely for there to be a fire than there is for there to be a shooting.
You can't control other human beings.
No, that's exactly it. It's like it's just uncontrollable. And it's sad that it's in schools with innocents that have no say. And, it creates a whole different thing. And there's so many good things about the American school system that it's a real shame that is something to even have to consider. Like, we're talking about culture shock, and that is a huge culture shock.
This is something that I cannot defend it. I cannot defend. There's nothing I can say that could be a good part of that. There is no pro to that part of the gun culture here. Obviously, guns in general, like, it's very foreign to us. Like, the nuances of it are, each state is like a different country. They each have their own gun laws. You can choose to live in one that's tighter. You can choose to live in one that's looser. There's so much to it that it's just like, it's in the UK, you're just seeing it as like everybody has a gun, like everyone has the same thoughts about it, and it's so not true. There's so many people that live in this country that are anti-gun or pro-gun. Like, there's both, and I just don't think that it's not where we haven't been brought up in, and we don't understand. Like, it's hard to judge it anymore, because I feel like they have their reasons. I'm
not well versed in it, and it's easy for me to judge it outside of it. But I just think, for me, it's like, that's wild, and I'm not. It doesn't make me feel confident in that they could keep my children safe when they're not with me, because evidently they can't. If you can convince me otherwise, I would love to hear it, because that's just coming from an outside perspective.
And I think it's interesting. It should be interesting to people to hear the outside perspective. I feel like that's a good thing. We should be open to thoughts and feelings about everything.
Yeah, definitely. And nothing's set in stone, you know what I mean? Like,
It's an opinion.
exactly, it's an opinion, and the Americans certainly that I have befriended here have got out. One of the reasons is they didn't want to send their kids to school in the US because of the guns and the risks to that. So the people I've spoken to are anti, so that obviously will, you know, give you or give me that perspective on it, because I don't know. Anyway, voice notes of from the week, which is going to be the last final segment I think we'll do, unless there's any other cultural thing that you want to talk about. I sent it to you earlier. I was really interested to hear what our first voice note was that we ever sent. I'm gonna put it on here, and it was quite an interesting one.
Decided that I'm just going to communicate like this because sometimes we're like passing ships in the wind and the time difference and all of that, and the kids and your commitments and then my commitments, you know, I just feel like
So busy.
there's a little bit of discrepancy with the timings that we can speak. So I feel like, you know, just having like, you know, that running podcast that I can do for you every so often to give you updates, I feel like that would be a nice thing for you to listen to when you go out for a run.
That was in my running era. I don't run anymore.
That was
But
like the first week.
Yeah, that was like, you know, just a couple of weeks of running. It was really nice. I was running on the cliffs by the beach. But I thought it was funny because that was our first ever podcast.
Yeah,
that we
I
did.
said it in there. I said podcast.
So, that was our voice note of the week. There's so many, and I need to find like the funny things because they go on for like 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm not going to sit there right now through it. But yes, I thought that was a fun one. Yeah, it was your one.
I love it.
Yes. So that's it. That's our second episode. Culture shock is real. And both places have completely different cultures, even staying in Europe, leaving Europe. Places are just different, aren't they?
I feel like we haven't even touched aside. There's so many more than this. So like, if you want us to do a part 2 on it, like there's so many. But we thought we'd just touch on like the major ones that you would probably know about and you could also have an opinion on.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear other people's opinions as well. So please make sure you comment, write to us, send us messages, whatever you want to do. We'll add maybe like the social medias that we're going to put up and the websites and all of that so that you can actually contact us, because we'd love to hear more.
And like and subscribe, because that's how we fund the podcast.
No, but do, because then we can see that it's actually taking off and that we're actually interesting and talking about topics that you guys want to hear about. There's so many topics. We've just chosen a few to start, and hopefully you think they're worthwhile and they add some value to whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're considering moving, whether you're not, whether you are just interested in hearing what it's like to move to a different place in the world. Cool. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to turn it up.